The last person anyone would want discovering their most private secrets is Emmerdale's Dr Todd, but Charity Dingle is about to learn that the hard way after a surprising twist in the ITV soap. Todd has completely destroyed Jacob Sugden's confidence and self-esteem as part of her cruel bullying campaign, targeting the young medical student whenever she gets the chance. Jacob has felt so miserable because of his mentor's awful treatment that he has struggled to think clearly or concentrate on his work, constantly worrying about how Todd might respond if he makes a mistake. Tired of living like this, he filed an official complaint with HR earlier this week, leaving Todd horrified. She warned him to be careful, but Jacob stayed firm and refused to be intimidated. However, Todd soon stepped in when Charity was discovered in a lift after giving birth to the baby that Jacob and Sarah Sugden believe belongs to them. Charity was rushed into surgery, with Todd carrying out the operation. In the first of 2 clips from Wednesday's April 22nd episode, Sarah and Jacob meet the baby while trying to cope with the traumatic circumstances of the birth and worrying about Charity. Jacob reassures Sarah that Todd is skilled at her job, meaning Charity is in safe hands. The surgery appears successful, and Charity is later shown recovering in a hospital room in the second clip. She makes a frantic call to Chaz Dingle, anxious that Ross Barton, who helped deliver the baby, is becoming emotionally attached. As viewers know, Ross is actually the baby's biological father because, despite what Sarah and Jacob believe, the embryo transfer failed. Charity later became pregnant with Ross's child after a one-night stand with her ex. Wanting to give Sarah the child she has always dreamed of, Charity decided to keep the real paternity secret. But now she worries Ross could reveal everything, so she urges Chaz to speak with him. Chaz does exactly that outside Hot and General, warning Ross to stay away from the baby. What they do not realize, however, is that Dr Todd has overheard the entire conversation. The big question now is how much she heard. Does she know the baby is not Jacob's? If she does, how will she use this information? Todd is known for being ruthless and has shown before, especially when Maya Stepney was mentioned, that she will do whatever it takes and use any secret to stay in control. Will she confront Charity herself, or will she go straight to Jacob and shatter his world with the truth? Emmerdale viewers think they have worked out who started the barn fire, and many now believe it was not Joe Tate. In a recent episode of the ITV soap, someone set a barn on Robert Sugden's farm on fire. At first, fans were convinced Joe was responsible because of the smug expression he gave Robert after the flames were extinguished. However, a new theory suggests someone else may be targeting Robert instead. Moira Dingle had recently returned to her old farm and home after being released from prison last week. She was speaking with Robert and her son Matty when Joe interrupted them. Shortly afterwards, they noticed the smell of smoke. When they rushed outside, they discovered one of the barns in flames. They managed to put out the fire themselves, while Joe stood nearby and made no attempt to help. As they tried to work out who was responsible, Joe hinted that the attack might have been aimed at Moira. With both Moira and Robert clearly shaken, many viewers suspected Joe had caused it. Now, fans have come up with another theory that points to someone else as the culprit. On social media, viewers suggested Joe seemed too obvious a choice, and that another person may have acted for him. One fan asked if it could be Graham working on Joe's behalf. Another viewer said they were unsure if it matched Graham's usual style, but thought it was possible. A third fan added that they did not believe Joe was behind it this time. Graham was not the only person viewers suspected, as some also wondered if Robert's ex-husband Kev Townsend was involved. One fan suggested Kev might be returning to the storyline, while others agreed and said they believed it was him. Another theory simply stated that it must be Kev. Someone else questioned whether Sadie King could be responsible. These ideas followed the earlier theories that Joe was to blame. One viewer said it seemed suspicious that Joe arrived, and shortly afterwards they noticed the fire. Another fan agreed, while someone else suggested Joe may have started the blaze as a warning to Robert not to go to the police. A fourth viewer said it was definitely Joe. Another comment claimed Joe would eventually get what he deserves, calling him spiteful toward Moira and saying it was time for revenge after all the damage he has caused to others. Emmerdale will bring back a surprise character from Beowulf's modern slavery storyline next week, as Paddy Dingle desperately searches for a way to help his troubled father. With Bear's trial over the death of Ray Walters drawing near, Paddy hopes for a last-minute breakthrough, but it remains unclear whether things will work in his favour. The dramatic scenes also show Paddy worrying about his own future, as he is in serious legal trouble after helping Bear cover up Ray's death. The reality of the situation becomes even more painful when Paddy's young daughter Eve begs him not to go to prison, leaving him devastated. After Eve overhears gossip in the village about her father, Paddy is forced to admit that jail is a real possibility. As Eve pleads with Paddy not to leave her, Mandy suggests that Bear should take all the blame himself, causing Paddy to storm out in anger. Paddy is furious that his wife could make such a harsh suggestion, so he leaves in disgust. Mandy only wanted to stop Eve's distress, and later she tracks Paddy down to explain herself. The couple eventually make peace, and Mandy promises to stand by Paddy no matter what happens at the trial. During a visit to Bear in prison, Paddy is stunned to see Simo, one of his father's fellow survivors from the farm. Paddy begs Simo to give evidence in Bear's defense, but Simo firmly refuses, leaving Paddy with little hope. Paddy had believed Simo was dead, so he immediately thinks Simo could be an important witness for Bear, who is still struggling over the bank account Ray created for him. Although Simo admits Bear does not deserve to be imprisoned, he refuses to testify. He explains that he needs to protect his fragile mental health and does not want to relive the trauma of what happened on Ray and Celia's farm. As Paddy looks over the village he cares so deeply about, he fears it may be the last night he ever spends at home. The question now is whether Paddy will be sent to prison and separated from his family. Charity Dingle has given birth to a baby girl in Emmerdale, but after suffering a hemorrhage, she lost consciousness, leaving viewers wondering if she will die. It is a critical situation as Dr Todd rushed her into surgery, but there are strong signs that Charity will survive. After becoming trapped in a lift while in full labour on Monday night, Tuesday's episode showed emergency services still struggling to free Charity. Mackenzie was with her for support, but he became overwhelmed by flashbacks to the time he was locked in a bunker by Jacob Sugden. Because of this, Ross Barton had to step in and take charge. Emmerdale airs on weekdays at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.